couldn't explain it, but there it was, alive in the deep, deep waters of the Amazon. A throwback to a creature that had existed 100 million years ago, immensely strong and destructive. A woman's beauty, the bait that brought it out of its lair. See underwater thrills never photographed before. See Titanic underwater battles never dreamed of before in this most terrifying of the science fiction adventures.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a Time Shifters Podcast Spooky Season Edition. It continues.
It goes on and on.
And it's actually going to continue on. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the show, I think. But
Sure.
For now, I think we're going to just jump right into this, Tom, because we've got a fun episode this week. We are talking Gill-man.
I still struggle with the fact that they call him Gill-man. Sounds like your dentist.
Yeah.
Dr. Gill-man will see you now.
Yeah, we are talking about the famous Gill-man right off the bat with The Creature of the Black Lagoon from 1954. This was directed by Jack Arnold and stars Richard Carlson, Julie Adams, Richard Denning, Whit Bissell, and as the creature, Ben Chapman on land and Riku Browning in the water. This film was shot in 3D to capitalize on the craze that was sweeping through the early 1950s. This is actually kind of almost a last hurrah for the 3D films as well. There was a bunch of films through like 52 and 53. By the time this one came around, the 3D craze was already starting to peter out a little bit. There would be a few more films after this, and then it would kind of go quiet again until the 70s.
Yeah.
I was reading a little bit about the 3D, and there's film historians and everything who said they've noticed that it kind of goes in about 30-year cycles.
Ah.
3D film has been around since like the late 1800s, and then it comes around and like every 30 years or so, it's like it takes a new generation of filmmakers to sort of quote unquote discover the process, play with it for a little while, maybe make some advancements. And then it just goes, you know what, this is a pain in the butt. We're not going to do this anymore.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Yeah, so you get kind of the early 50s, you get the later 70s.
Yeah, Jaws 3D, etc. Yeah.
And then you don't really see much of it again till the 2000s.
Right. Avatar, I think, came around, and then everything was 3D for a while. If it wasn't shot in 3D, it was converted to 3D to put it into more theaters. You
can still occasionally catch some of them.
Yeah, and then it sort of faded away.
Yep.
So in the next 5-10 years, maybe there'll be another.
I'll buy into 3D once they give me my holodeck.
Yeah. I want that sort of legitimate 4D all-around expansive virtual reality sort of experience.
Yeah. It's coming. It'll come.
The creature suit in this film was designed by Millicent Patrick. However, her role in the creation of one of the most iconic cinematic monsters has only recently come to light in the last decade or so, as makeup artist Bud Westmore effectively took credit for her work.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that she is finally getting the credit for it. There was an actual entire book written about this woman and how much or how important her role is in early 1950s cinema behind the scenes, for the most part, because it's a man's world, certainly in the 50s, that the people she worked for took a lot of the credit from her. It's fantastic that she's finally getting her due.
No, absolutely, because the creature is it's an amazing piece of work.
Oh, it is, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get into discussing the film. And in this film, a recent discovery of a fossilized hand that appears to have come from an aquatic creature that may be the link between land and sea animals gets an expedition to set out to find the rest of the skeleton deep in the Amazon River system. Eventually finding their way to a black lagoon, they discover a living creature. This amphibious biped takes a fancy to beautiful Kay Lawrence, the girlfriend of one of the scientists, and everyone's life is endangered as they try to bring news of this discovery back to civilization. I'm not exactly sure why. Well, maybe I do, but I think I've watched this film the most, aside from Dracula, of all the Universal films that we've discussed. This is the one I think I've seen the most.
Interesting. I do kind of wonder why that might be.
Yeah, I don't know. So it's not one of these things where I feel like sitting down and watching The Creature. I think it's usually just the occasion comes up that I find myself watching The Creature from the Black Lagoon. There was a comic expo, a Cincinnati Comic Expo years ago. Rico Browning was a guest.
Oh, okay.
Which was very cool. I got a chance to meet him, talk to him, and even interview him. And one of the big things, the special things they did that evening was a 16 millimeter 3D print film or showing of the film. And so we got to sit in the audience with our red and blue, glasses.
Yeah.
And Rico Browning's right there in the audience watching along with us. And it was then he did a little Q&A at the end and everything. So I was like, that was very cool. That's just one of the times that I've watched this film.
For me, I've only seen this film maybe once before. I remember the parts that I remember. It's, of course, everything with the creature. And I didn't remember much of the rest of the film. So watching it again, I was like, the creature parts are the only thing that make this film worth watching. Because again, I know it's dated, the science, and it's all a little kludgy at best. But the sexism in this is just insane. Like, there's almost no reason for her to be there at all, except she works for the one guy and is dating the other guy. and so there's this weird kind of semi-love triangle thing going on in the background, and everybody is just one-dimensional.
Yeah, we're told that she is a scientist herself, and that she is, or in some regard, and that she's just as much responsible for a lot of stuff that's been going on at the Institute as anybody.
Yeah.
We don't actually see her doing any science, do we?
No, we never see her. She's always sitting on deck, standing somewhere completely oblivious to her surroundings, or somehow doing water ballet in the middle of a black lagoon.
Yeah, she is there to wear shorts and go swimming.
And this is one of those things too where it's cliche for the beast to fall for the pretty girl and all of that. But I mean, in this particular case, I'm not entirely why. Like he watched her swim, and that was enough to get his juices going that he kept wanting. But this is weird. The movie really weirds me out. Like, yeah, he's kind of enamored with her swimming and all of that. But I don't actually get that any of the other things that he's doing is about the girl. It's about the fact that he's kind of hunted and all of that. The girl's kind of an afterthought, even when he finally does grab her and carry her off. It's just 'cause she was convenient.
I think, at least initially, I think it's the novelty of having this woman, in his domain.
Sure.
And she's not chasing him with spear guns,
right,
or poison or anything. She's just swimming and just doing the kind of things that he does.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And she's different, and we don't know is he the only one. We don't know if there's a civilization of these creatures. We don't know if he's the last of his kind. He's the only one we see, so I think we're supposed to infer that maybe that he is alone, and so maybe it's just the novelty of having this other person swimming around in the water.
Oh yeah, no, I grant all that, but then in the same turn, and this is kudos again to the effects of the suit, the fact that Rico is doing amazing underwater work in all of this. The amount of times he just swims so naturally on his back underwater, staring up at her while she's doing her thing. The part that just makes me laugh while the whole thing's happening, while I'm enjoying the technical sophistication of all of this, especially in 1954, she at no point ever notices that there's something literally shadowing her. He's at one point all of 3 feet from her. Like, you should be able to see him.
I think that is a little bit of a thing that suffers with the idea that we're told that this is the Black Lagoon.
Sure.
It's called that for a reason. I'm assuming it's because you can't really see, into the water from the surface. But whenever you're in the water, visibility seems fine. So that is a little bit of a disconnect between where they are and how it all works.
And that's the stuff I was struggling with. I get that they're trying to create a mood. It's just, he was pretty damn close, and your face is in the water. You should be able to see him.
I mean, there's even moments where it's pitch black at night, and the guys are out looking for this creature, and they go diving in the water, and they can see fine. They shouldn't be able to see their hand in front of their face. They don't have any flashlights or anything with them. They're just swimming in the dark, and it's bright. So...
Right, and that's why I'm absorbed in all this, because there's not really much else to this film. It's scientists go find something, they think they've now come across the living version of it. Now it's a matter of capture or kill. It doesn't want to be captured or killed. Battles ensue. They become almost formulaic because they keep happening exactly the same way each time. And then in the end, the only thing I give this one, while it still has the wonderful 1930s abrupt ending, because we're unclear on how injured he actually is, since he's brushed off nearly everything else, you just see him disappear under a ledge in the water, and that's it. That's the end of the movie, and... that's fine, but in this case, we don't have necessarily a definitive death.
Correct.
So that actually I kind of dug that part. We just don't know. We just know he slunk away and had very good reason to do so. Mm-hmm. But then it's not a super satisfying ending either.
I am a little annoyed that I don't think anybody actually has the discussion that they are dealing with an intelligent creature.
Right.
They point out the fact that he must have done this. He's blocked the channel.
Right.
But they still go hunting after him as if he's a wild animal. No one at any point goes, wait, no, let's settle down. Maybe we can. This is an intelligent creature. Maybe we could. There's some connection we can make with this thing. We can reason with it. We can try to befriend it. We can try to bait it. We've used a stick. Let's use a carrot. That none of that ever happens.
And that's where we get back to them all being one-dimensional characters. No one was writing these people to actually be who they were supposed to be. They were only supposed to affect one little version of that. Like the Mark character, he's the scientist, but he's in it for the money and the glory of whatever his discovery might be. Hell, he's rushing the entire thing. Man, we've been here 30 minutes, not found anything. We have totally wasted our time. I'm like, what the hell? Like, isn't there a doctor in your name somewhere?
Yeah, I definitely get a kick out of the fact that our two lead male scientists are really you got to choose between the lesser of two evils. You got one guy like, no, let's kill it and bring it back. And the guy, no, hey, we don't need to kill it. Let's capture it.
Let's capture it and bring it back.
Let's chain it up and bring it back.
Yeah. Let's not. There's no sense of, well, why don't we study it in its habitat? Let's see if we can back off and check this thing out. Like we would any other creature. I like it's just literally throughout time, science is usually observation. But in the 50s and 60s, science is, let's get it done. Like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit like if Jane Woodall had gone into the forest to study the gorillas, packing a sidearm,
Well, and chains so that she could haul them away and put them on display and go.
Right, yes.
Poke at them a couple of times. Come on, do stuff like an ape. Like, what?
I killed a few of them so they'd know I could.
I needed to become their alpha. Yeah, no, it's that whole mentality. I swear the Manhattan Project did not do good things for us as a people. Oh, look, we can control everything now. That must mean we can do whatever we want. Yeah.
Yeah, the true star of this film is the technical achievements that they made in this film. First of all, they actually filmed this thing underwater in 3D. They were able to make 3D cameras enclosed in something that they could sink in the water and film this thing. And then they actually came up with a suit that someone could wear and swim like they do. I'm glad you pointed that out. I said the same thing to my wife while we were watching it, that it's amazing how natural Rico Browning makes that look. There are moments where you could easily forget that that's a man in a suit.
No,
the
absolutely.
way he moves.
Yeah, no, very natural. And the suit and the look of the creature and all that, granted, definitely man-like, but they really kind of thought it through. I mean, his look, even the mouth movement, the need to breathe, and
yeah, and they did a really great job. And I know you've had to have seen this in other films where they have like the full face mask and everything, but then they have an open mouth, and you go like, I can see the actor. I can see the actor's mouth.
That was what I was really noticing in this, is like he is open mouth breathing, and you'd be damned if you could tell that there's a person in there.
No, exactly. Yeah, and they were able to work it so his gills on the side of his head would move as he breathes and everything. It was really way ahead of its time.
No, it absolutely was. And then just the thought, the webbed hands with the claws on them, and then the feet, and the scaling and the layering of the scaling. It's an amazing piece of technology. And then the fact you stuck an actual human being, made him swim around, and you caught it all on camera in 1954. That's all good stuff.
Yeah, and Rico did all that. They would film it in a few minute spurts because he was not wearing any kind of scuba gear. He would swim off to the side where someone had an air hose. He would take a few gulps of air, swim back into frame, do his thing, and then swim back off to the side to get some more air.
Which that is an amazing thing also, because anyone that wants to geek out over it, I wasn't aware that that's how they pulled that off, but I did notice there are no air bubbles escaping him.
Nope.
When he's in the water, it's just him. It's just him in the water. Any air bubbles is just an effect of him swatting the water around and all that. Like, that's intense.
This was filmed for 3D and for a 3D audience. And for the most of the film, there is not a lot of 3D in-your-face tricks. It's really when it comes down to the climax of the film that they really start throwing the stuff at you. with the divers swimming at you, shooting the spear
harpoons.
guns right in
Yeah.
your face, or even blowing the bubble, the poison when they have it in the air thing, blowing that at you.
Yeah.
Up until that point, it was pretty subtle.
Well, yeah, and even when they were doing that, whether it was 3D or not, that's the kind of trickery that happens in every movie because it's the idea is you're supposed to be in the moment. So, so yeah, no, none of it was like the flaming arrow flying by your head, and all that. You weren't getting a lot of that, which is the mark of at least you're still trying to make a movie and not just an effect.
I think one of my favorite 3D gimmicks, and it's done strictly because the 3D gimmick is, of course, the guy sitting there playing with the yo-yo kind of thing. Not in this film, but I forget what film it is. I am annoyed by you're only doing that because it's 3D.
Right.
Whereas this film, I feel like they're doing it because they do it anyway. It just so happens it's in 3D.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they didn't overplay that, which was nice. I just could have stood to have a little more depth of character.
Little more story, maybe. Yeah.
A little more story, and maybe actually think through what would real scientists actually do in a scenario where one would come over. We get that kind of stuff later. It requires movie making to mature a little bit more, but it's still a real fun watch. I'd like to have seen a little more variation in the kind of things that would happen, though, because every attack involved him just gripping a man's face. Wasn't much to it.
And, of course, another thing that kind of makes this film is the soundtrack, which can be, I think, a bit bombastic.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I'd even be curious. Is this the first time where it's just kind of that over the top in your face all the time? And it doesn't fit. like the loud trumpeting that occurs every time he would show up on screen. He's kind of not that dramatic and not that scary. He looks like a creature. He looks like an aqua creature. He's not baring teeth. He's not eating people. Which actually, I fundamentally have a problem with. Again, going into where's the motivation? Like when he wipes out the two guys in the tent that don't know he's even there, and they haven't really done anything. So now it's just killing for sport. And I'm like,
right.
So why?
Yeah. The motivation of the creature at any point is questionable.
Yeah, all of that's suspect. So I get that we're just trying to throw in the thrills, and they really want to get to the effect, and they were slow playing that. I appreciated that we weren't just jumping right into the monster. We have to see the skeletonized hand of another one. We have to see the hands reaching into the tent, and then you only see the hands battling the people. I appreciate that, but I'm like, there's no reason for any of this to be happening.
No. Yeah, they did overplay the sting, the music sting, though, jumping back into that. I think it's good, and it can be used wisely, but they overuse it in this one. I mean, right from the get-go, his hand's out of the water. Ba-ba-bam!
Yeah. It was almost like I need to just turn the volume off at this point because I'm like, it's just too much.
The only other thing that I wanted to mention and question whether it was necessary was the voiceover introduction.
Yeah.
The whole, in the beginning, and there was man and sea, and weirdly this thing pretty much says, and God created the earth, and then there was evolution. All right, well, I guess that's progressive.
A little more open than some variations.
Yeah. Did they just need a few more minutes on this film? I don't know. It didn't feel like it really needed to be there.
No, and I felt like it got covered later as we were doing our investigation, they constantly talked about trying to seek out creatures that bridge that gap between being in the water and then coming onto land, because they were looking for lungfish and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's all covered in the dialogue of the film. So why do we need it in the beginning with some mysterious voiceover introduction?
Somebody saw it in another film, they liked it, they did it again.
Yeah, that may actually be the very reason that happened.
Yes, exactly. It was a trope. They felt they needed to do it.
Anytime there's a voiceover that starts the film and then never shows up again, it always feels like, why?
And we'll have to carry that over to the next film, too.
Yeah. And I think maybe this is we should go and see if you got any reviews on this.
I do, but they're smattered all over the place. So the one that I could find, a little tidbit from 1954, was from the New York Times, A.H. Wheeler. It's a fishing expedition that is necessary only if a viewer has lost all his comic books.
Aw.
Yeah, they didn't really care for this film. It's interesting that I found that, and that's about the only thing I could dig up from 1954 specifically. So I have some others, and of course, this is when nostalgia takes over. So I have one here from 1998, Chicago Tribune, Michael Wilmington. This Universal sci-fi saga has little of the style or atmosphere of the studio's 30s horror classics. Its stars are amiable Richard Carlson and Julia Adams, but it does have a unique monster, the Amazonian Gill-man, a lovelorn amphibian who spots Adams underwater and doesn't stop swimming after her until the very last minute. So, appreciating a bit more, but recognizing not quite the same punch as the 30s monsters. And then also over at Empire, this is from 2006, Kim Newman says, directed by sometimes inspired journeyman Jack Arnold, of the Incredible Shrinking Man fame, this is one of the best-loved monster movies of the 50s. Whereas many of its rivals drag until the monster shows up and turn ridiculous afterwards, this establishes an atmosphere of unease and magic in the early stretches, as the monster is glimpsed as a 3D clutching hand accompanied by its memorable blaring theme tune. So even in at marveling that it's put together fairly well, but yeah, that noting the things that still stick out.
Yeah. You know, going back to that first review, that isn't entirely surprising. And, you know, speaking with Rico Browning, and I've heard interviews with like Julie Adams, everyone involved in the film, I mean, they were just filming just another B movie. Mm-hmm. And it could have easily just been that. I think it's because of that, because of the unique creature, because of the technical achievements that they managed to pull off with the underwater swimming and filming. That is the reason this film has survived and as well loved as it is, I think. Because you're right, or they are right. Mm-hmm. It's just another monster movie from the 50s.
Yeah.
But it did something a little bit different than everybody else, and that's what kind of put it just a step above all the others.
And whether they really thought they were or not, I mean, this is a technological marvel for the day.
Yeah.
Is it a goofy-looking monster? That's your call. I happen to think it's actually a fairly well put-together looking monster, but the fact that they pull off everything underwater in the suit without air bubbles, without seeing the person inside the suit, that's all fantastic. You don't get that kind of attention to detail in something like this for a lot longer.
Yeah, and I think maybe now is the time we should take a break and jump into one of those moments when we finally do get something comparable.
Yes.
So we'll take a break here, and we'll play a promo for another podcast. And then when we get back, we are going to kind of jump forward quite a few years to watch 2017's The Shape of Water.
Hi, I'm Jeff Owens.
And I'm Richard Chamberlain. And we want you to join our club, the Classic Horrors Club.
Every month, Richard and I host the Classic Horrors Club podcast, where we talk about our favorite subject, horror movies.
Some of them are classics.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
And some definitely aren't.
What you see is real. What's done is done, and what I've done is right. It's the work of science.
But we love them all the same. We also have special theme months where we highlight the legendary stars.
And we head to the drive-ins of the past every summer for exciting double and triple features.
Hi, I'm Chili Dilly, the personality pickle.
And we even have occasional guests.
My obsession, and it is truly an obsession, I suppose, of Frankenstein, the True Story dates back to when it first aired in 2 parts on NBC in 1973.
So join the fun and listen to the Classic Horrors Club podcast today. Hosted by SoundCloud, we're available wherever fine podcasts are found. And for even more fun, check out the video companion on our YouTube channel.
And remember,
we sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment.
Now, this romantic fantasy film was directed by Guillermo del Toro and co-written by del Toro along with Vanessa Taylor. The film stars Sally Hawkins, Michael Shannon, Richard Jenkins, Octavia Spencer, and as the creature, Doug Jones. Del Toro based the story on his childhood memories of watching The Creature from the Black Lagoon. As a young child, he wanted to see the Gill-man and Kay together. In an interview, he said, "I thought it'd be great if the creature and Julie Adams would end up living together. I was 6. I didn't know better. But I'm 53 and I still don't know better because I made this movie." In the film, it's 1962, and an amphibious fish man is discovered in a South American river and brought to a research facility located in Baltimore, Maryland, for study by an overzealous and cruel Colonel Strickland. Enter Eliza, a mute woman who as a child was discovered as an infant along a river with scars across her neck, and is now working on the cleaning staff of the facility. Eliza becomes curious of this humanoid creature and begins visiting it in secret, eventually forming a bond between them that blossoms into a romance. Hoping to exploit the creature's abilities to switch from air and water in the ongoing space race, Strickland gets permission to vivisect it. Unknown to anyone is that the Russians have a spy on the staff that wants the secrets for the Soviets, or at the very least, stop the Americans from gaining any additional knowledge. When Eliza discovers that the creature is doomed, she and her friends, neighbor Giles and co-worker Zelda, hatch a plan to steal the creature and eventually return him to the sea. So yeah, I love the fact that this film was, while not a remake of The Creature of the Black Lagoon, was inspired by The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
One could almost argue a sequel.
I was going to say, this felt like sort of an alternate history sequel to Creature of the Black Lagoon. This is what would happen if the lead scientist in Creature had gotten his way and managed to capture and drag this thing back to civilization.
Yeah, because I'm envisioning where it disappeared under that ledge at the end of the first one. But given what we learn about it, about this creature in this film, we now know that it wasn't gonna die.
Exactly.
So
well, and there's those great little the very fact that they say, and it's just a little bit of dialogue by somebody in the background, that it was found in the South American jungle, or it was found in, I don't remember if they actually
they didn't say Amazonian, but South American river. You nailed it. Which I'm like, well, they found the Black Lagoon again.
Yes, exactly.
Or the scientists returned, the one and his girlfriend, and the guy that was hanging on for dear life. They came back, and they actually did eventually go back and put together an expedition, and unfortunately led by this guy.
Yes, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, well, you figure this takes in 62, so yeah, it would take maybe 10 years for everyone to get back and then kind of rebuild and get themselves settled and then build up funds and find supporters to go back and mount a larger expedition to find the creature. It all kind of fits in and works.
It does, and I couldn't help because it's Guillermo del Toro and Doug Jones. I was having a nice little fantasy in my head that this is not only a sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, but a prequel to Hellboy.
Now, you do say that. I did read a little snippet of an interview with Del Toro. He is emphatic that this does not take place in the same universe as Hellboy.
And I grant that, but damn, it's Doug Jones playing the same thing in almost an identical suit. I'm sorry, tell me whatever you like, but there's no way you didn't have a little bit of that in your head there. I've become such a fan of Doug Jones over the years, and I know it's mostly because he can tolerate getting into the various costumes that he is required to for all of the work that he does, but he is so good when he does.
I think he's amazing in the fact that he is an astonishing suit actor, but he's also a really good actor.
Yes.
He is, I've said on this show numerous times that I really did not like Star Trek Discovery.
No, really? I can't remember you mentioning that. Kidding.
But the one of the only reasons I bothered to go ahead and watch all the seasons was for performances like Doug Jones.
Yes, no, his character Suru in Discovery is the only thing almost worth watching in it.
Yeah, it's just astonishing how he brings that character to life. And the very fact that, he does have speaking dialogue and everything along with it. And it is him. And he, performs the character. He creates that character, the way it moves and the way he speaks and everything. It's just astonishing. He truly does become that character.
Well, and that's what's amazing even in this. Despite the fact I don't know how much of the sound work coming from the creature was actually him vocalizing anything, or if they did that. I didn't research that.
No, I'm not sure.
But it doesn't matter, because how he carries himself in it, he exudes that he is this creature. And you can... I know they had to work it with some of the eye technology and the way that the various fins and gills would move on the suit. But the way he carries himself, the way that even through all the makeup and the prosthetics, he is able to emote, and you know what the creature's feeling, no matter what's going on, because it's not static. It's him. He is the one making you feel those things when he's angry and vicious and all of that. You want to get out of the way, but when he is being tender or even kind of silly, it's just too much fun. You grow to care about him in this role as much as any of the other characters.
Oh, absolutely. I love the fact that Del Toro went with a actual suit performance for this creature. This is 2017, so we are well within the realm where it could be motion capture.
Yeah.
This could have easily all just been Andy Serkis.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I love the fact that he went with a suit creature and gave it the ability and put an actor in it that had the ability to emote the way that he could.
And again, You did all of this very convincingly and still did water, too. We didn't get a full swim.
No, we don't get to see any of the real, amazing swimming abilities or anything that we saw, like Rico Browning managing to pull off in Creature.
Right.
This is more or less in a wading pool.
Yes.
Is how we see him for the most part.
Yeah, no, we don't, and it would have been interesting to see this version of the Creature actually be able to do more in the water, but that's not this story.
No, you almost want to see like the short film prequel of his capture or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really want to see him being captured and subjugated, but you kind of still want to see him like in his native territory.
Yeah, you want to see the chase.
Yeah, exactly.
And with this version of a Creature looking like that, with the technology that's available, that would have been an amazing run, watching this Creature move through the water.
Maybe we can get a sequel where someone goes and tries to hunt him down again, and the Creature, comes out on top.
Yeah, Abe Sapien. Sorry. We shared a text, and you have me wondering how you actually feel about this film.
Yeah, I watched this film, and I found myself at the end of the film sort of like, I don't know how I feel about it. I've been mulling it over ever since, and I still don't know. I think it's a beautiful film. It's an amazingly well done film. I love the universe that it creates. I love the set design of everything. Having it placed in the 1960s, but it still feels a little bit like a surrealist 1960s. Everything's a little almost steampunkish in the way that everything seems a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah, exaggeration is good. It is an over-dramatized version of 1962.
Yeah, even the apartment of Eliza and Giles, it doesn't quite feel real.
Right. It just
feels a little overly stylized.
I know, and that's part of what I loved about this, because this movie to me feels like a dream.
Very much. I said stylized, dreamlike might be the better term.
Yes, and this is where I'll go ahead and call back what we were talking about, the voiceover, because we started on a very amazing scene of it's Eliza in her apartment, but the whole thing is underwater. Everything in there is floating. She is floating, but she is there, and we are getting we're getting Giles telling us the start of the story. And we do get him at the end. I don't know how much any of that needed to be there, but while the opening is kind of a little out of place for the rest of the movie, because it's very much a dream sequence almost. Mm-hmm. I love it. It doesn't fit. I'm glad it's there. I could just watch that little sequence on a loop and be happy. But it didn't need to be part of the film.
It's a dream sequence, but it's also in a way kind of giving you a preview of what's to come at the end, I think. It's a little bit saying, like, this is where we're headed, even though this is where we're beginning.
True. And then having a conversation with a friend that saw this, that was dying for my take on this. I'm going to jump to the end a little bit. What we're graced with through this is our heroine, Eliza, is mute. And she has 3 deep scars on her neck that supposedly have been there more or less since she was born, as far as she knows. We see at the end when she's been shot and essentially dying, if not dead. And we see the creature, which we have learned has amazing, incredible healing powers. we see him go over those 3 scars, which also happen to parallel the claws on his own hand. As he rakes across there, he heals them, and they become gills for her. My friend postulated she has always been one of the creatures.
Yeah. No, that was my assumption, is that she has somehow been separated from her people, effectively.
Yes.
It is said within dialogue that, you know, she was found by a river as a child. So somehow she washed up, you know, on the shore somewhere, and then was taken in and adopted. So no, I believe she is, or she has always been, some form of this creature, or this or something similar, a relation to this life form.
Oh yes, no. Quite frankly, it doesn't take anything away from this for me, because this, like I said, everything about this is like a dream. All of it, from beginning to end, it's part of what I love about it. And where was I going with that? Oh, but no, what this does is it actually, and I'm just gonna go hard in on the pun, but the movie is a fish out of water tale. Everybody in it is a fish out of water. and that's the thread that goes throughout this film. It's all about the fight to be quote unquote normal, and no one is. And so we feel things maybe we don't have to, because if we just accept who we are, all is well. And she had to get all the way through this dream sequence to get to be who she was all along.
But going back to the beginning of the question of what I thought of the film.
Yes, sorry.
as a form of art, I think it is amazing. I love the way it looks. I love the way people dress. I love the way everything looks. I love the way the film plays with colors at different times at the film. Green is definitely a motif that is used. But as a story and as a finished piece, as a film, that's where I find myself going, yeah, it's fine. It does feel a little bit like lots of little vignettes from not necessarily the same film strung together to make a movie. And I don't know. I don't know if that...
You're struggling with this.
I am struggling with it. I am struggling with it a little bit. It is just... It's good. I liked it. I just don't know if some of the things felt a little odd. Like, well, that's interesting, but I'm not sure why we're spending time with this, other than it's just... It gives this character a little bit more character, but it doesn't really have anything or all that much to do with the rest of the movie, particularly talking about, Giles and his infatuation with the guy at the pizza, or at the pie shop. And then that just goes to a point and then stops. And that's his motivation for going, okay, I'm going to help you. Okay, I don't know if he needed that kind of hard of motivation. He could have just been, I'm your friend, I'm going to help you.
Well, in this case, the ask is to break into a government facility and rescue a creature he hasn't even seen, let alone is sure he believes in yet. So,
right.
So I was prepared to. He needed an extra kick in the ass to go do this.
Fine. The creature suddenly having, I don't know if you could call it suddenly, because it wasn't like...
We didn't get a lot of background on this version of the creature.
No, absolutely not. But, the creature having the ability to make Giles' hair grow back. This suddenly turns into the Green Mile, or...
It has a bit of that to it, because, it was described because of the legends of the area where they found it that this was a god. So, to which I actually rather enjoyed when when Michael Shannon's character actually comes to terms with the fact that after he shot it and it's getting back up again, oh my God, you are a god, and then he loses his life.
Right. Yeah, but it just felt like it can heal things because we need someone to heal things. It felt like, a little bit like Chekhov's superpower. We see it in the beginnings because we're going to need it later.
No, I've got you.
It felt like a little bit of a cheat for later in the film, I think. It was just, I know I'm going to back myself into a corner here. I know, I'll go back 2 chapters and give it healing powers.
Look, again, I'm not trying to defend your point of view. I feel the struggle within. Because you want this to be a coherent story with purpose and meaning and all of that, but it's very much an art film, very, very flighty, very visual, very, and because I keep going back to that dreamlike state, I don't think it's all supposed to necessarily make sense. And this is where I'm going to be a little bold. One of my favorite films to date still is Joe versus the Volcano. I recognize that it is a goofy film, but it is a dreamlike state film. And anything that happens in it is not real. It's not to be taken literally. It's meant to just make you feel. And it too is also a series of vignettes. You go through stages of this to get to the end. And ridiculous things happen to solve the problem. The volcano spits them out, for God's sakes. There's no reason for that to happen. It would never happen. But we accept it because that's part of that dreamlike state we're in with this, and that's what this makes me feel. I was so warm and comfortable, and I loved this thing so much that I'm going to watch it again very, very soon.
All right, excellent. Yeah, I think it just, for me, it felt like it had a sort of B-movie plot with a movie budget or something.
Sure.
It was a very simple, and because the plot said so, we've complained about films where we're sitting there and we've said that, that only happened because the plot said so, because, there's no motivation for this to happen. It's just the plot needed it to happen in order to get to the next scene. And I feel like that happened a lot through this film, but it's done in a film that is, cinematically far superior than so many of those other films.
Yeah, it's beauty and performance to a lot of lifting. I will grant you that.
Because even her infatuation with the creature and everything, I feel is shorthand a little bit. I feel like she's curious about it. Who wouldn't be? She goes from, I'm going to give it an egg, and now I'm going to steal it and take it home, in it's seemingly a very short amount of time.
Right. They did a little bit of a montage to show them developing a relationship of a kind. She kept bringing the music.
Right.
They
But I guess you can hand wave that a little bit if you go with the idea that she feels a connection with it because she is part of it.
Yeah, and I don't. That's the only part I don't know where I feel with this is because we've gotten at least enough nuggets that she's probably in some way related to this creature, but they didn't hit you over the head with it. They don't even confirm that that's actually a thing. Just because he does his thing, hey, magic, why not? But that's the only part where I sit a little there. I'll give you some ground there because yes, she's made this connection. Don't know why she even had sex with the thing, and didn't know that she could. I actually kind of rather dug that scene where she's trying to talk to Zelda.
Oh yeah.
About it.
Does he even have one?
Yeah, and she's doing the little hand gestures of it coming out of. And damned if it's not like tempting you. The next time I saw the creature, I was looking at that area on his body. and damned if there's not a seam down that. So they at least build it in. Like, oh my God. You could tell me you absolutely hate this thing and never want to see it again, and I'd still be like, it's wonderful.
You know, the very end of the film, I was talking to my wife about it when it happened, and I suggested, she could have been one of these creatures all along, or this could be her brain's last gasp, and this is just the last little dream that's going through her head as she's dying.
Yeah, and all of that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why actually the voiceover at the end is actually a little on the helpful side. He doesn't know what happened to any of them.
Right.
He's just speculating, and he likes to believe. And even if she did die in his arms in the water because of the gut shot and now she can't breathe, even if that happened, she lived out her life with him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't lie.
Right.
He went with what he knew.
She's dying happy.
Yep. She accomplished her goal. So, yeah, no. I still love it.
Visually, I loved it. I just don't know if I liked all of it. Outside of that.
Actually, for me, this is fun because you are usually hardcore on how you feel about a film. It is either awesome or terrible. You'll give some a little room here and there, but you don't really have it. You got a light side and a dark side for most things. And when you find that one that just really gnaws at you because you're like, I like it, but I have problems with it, and you have that inner turmoil, I enjoy that.
I'll admit it. It is one of those films that I can't quite find the right hole for that peg.
Right. Yeah. Because it doesn't exist.
It defies it. Yes.
And in your brain, it will never actually. And that's amusing to me because you're very black or white on most of these things.
Most things. I mean, I've definitely I rate all the films I watch on like IMDb and on Letterboxd, and follow the link in the show notes if you want to follow me on Letterboxd. And I give them all rate. And there is a lot of films. There are many films that I will come in kind of right in the middle. It's not bad. It's not good. I'd give it, a 5. But I usually give a good excuse as to why, or give some highlights. And I really like this, but I thought it wasn't used to its best, to as much as it should have, or that sort of thing.
I know, but you know where those sit still.
Yes.
Absolutely. This one you have no idea, and it will bug you forever.
Yeah, I think so.
And those are rare, and I enjoy them when they come up. But yeah, I get that for many people, this might not be your cup of tea. I mean, for God's sakes, there's a dance sequence with the creature.
Yeah, but that kind of comes right out of nowhere.
Yeah, but she in herself is essentially hallucinating something more or less at the time. And so it just feeds into that whole, this is just one long form dream.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you enjoyed it. I love when I see somebody discover a new favorite film.
Yeah, and this is one that I've been meaning to watch since the damn thing came out. And for what?
Same.
It's one of those things, just there was no opportunity to go see it or whatever.
Yeah, I guess from there, I don't know. Do you have reviews for this one?
Of course, because this one actually, I admit I didn't do the follow-up research. Didn't this win awards?
It was an Academy Award winner. That's won Best Picture, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, but I didn't bother to confirm. But at any rate, starting off with RogerEbert.com, Sheila O'Malley. In James Whale's 1935 film, The Bride of Frankenstein, the monster, Boris Karloff, says mournfully, "Alone, bad, friend, good." That's what Guillermo del Toro's latest film, The Shape of Water, is all about. The loneliness of those born before their time, born different. The Shape of Water doesn't cohere into the fairy tale promise by the dreamy opening. It makes its points with a jackhammer wielding cymbals in blaring neon. The mood is swooning, romanticism is silly or moving, depending on your perspective. I found it to be both. And that's what she says. And that's that nice little gray area that you're sitting in. And then on Vanity Fair, we have Richard Lawson. Taken as a whole, The Shape of Water is as richly realized, as uniquely captivating as anything you're likely to see this fall. It's transporting and evocative and kind. And then lastly, I have from the New York Times, A.O. Scott. The Shape of Water is partly a code-scrambled fairy tale, partly a genetically modified monster movie, and altogether wonderful. Guillermo del Toro, the writer and director, is a passionate genre geek. Sometimes his enthusiasm can get the better of his discipline, producing mishappen but never completely uninteresting movies like Pacific Rim and Crimson Peak. At his best, though, in The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth, and now, at last, again, he fuses a fan's ardor with a romantic sensibility that is startling in its sincerity. He draws on old movies, comic books, mythic archetypes, and his own relentless visual imagination to create movies that seem less made than discovered, as if he had plucked them from the cultural ether and given them color, voice, and form.
Wow. Yeah.
That's quite the review.
Yeah, quite. So he didn't like it, huh?
No. He just couldn't find the right words to say. Ugh.
1.5 stars, yeah.
Interestingly enough, it was only 2.5 at RogerEbert.com.
Wow.
Yeah, she liked it, but had problems with it. She sat in your seat.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I'm thoroughly amused by as I went to read these. I'm like, oh, have I got a review for you?
Well, I actually do have some social media this time.
Yes.
I saved it to the end because most of them kind of, I felt like a lot of them sort of blended and mentioned both the films we were talking about.
Didn't sit to talk about one or the other individually.
Yeah, I didn't want to split it up because there was, actual some train of thoughts and that sort of thing.
Sure.
So right off the bat, we've got a nice couple paragraphs here from Steve Sullivan. He says, I haven't watched Shape of Water for ages, but I really liked it. I need to rewatch it again soon. Obviously, it's a lot sexier than the original Creature, and I find it fascinating that this was originally supposed to be a remake for Universal. That's yes and no. I think there was Guillermo del Toro originally was kind of like looking to make a remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon, but all that kind of fell apart, and he just started using some ideas and stuff to...
Made a different film.
Exactly. Made a completely different film. But anyway, he goes on. Clearly, the first monster movie to win a Best Picture Oscar, Universal made a mistake by turning down Del Toro down on that front. Talking about the actual remake. Yeah. Maybe. For me, though, nothing can match the original Creature from the Black Lagoon. Creature was one of the first monsters I ever fell in love with, probably largely because of Millicent Patrick's magnificent design. Though the body design, whomever did it, to go with her head is perfect too. Oh, interesting. Okay, so she actually designed like the head and face of the creature, and the actual rest of the suit was done by maybe Wes Moore or somebody else.
Okay.
There was never been a better monster suit in films, and there may never be. And of course, Rico Browning's magnificent swimming work, holding his breath after breathing through an air tube underwater, greatly enhances the illusion that the creature is really an underwater relic, and not just a couple of guys in a suit, one for land and one for water. If they ever do a remake, they'll probably go with CGI, which will likely ruin it. Del Toro was wise to use a real suit and actor Doug Jones enhanced where needed with CG. The pro-ecology message of the original creature still echoes today. The protagonist-antagonist are memorable too, as is Julie Adams' white swimsuit. And again, an iconic monster design which takes its place among Universal classics. It would be interesting to watch these features back to back, though I'm not sure at this point which I'd want to watch first. At a revival double bill of Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon, I discovered that order matters, because The Falcon, a different classic film, was something of a letdown after the tour de force that is Casablanca. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Having watched them both, I would definitely agree Casablanca is a better film between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I don't have the TV setup or the no longer young eyes to fully appreciate the creature in 3D as it was intended. Memory tells me, though, that it is one of the best 3D films of the time. I watch it at least once a year. Hopefully your listeners will enjoy them both. So that was a fantastic little bit of feedback, Stephen. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that. Mm-hmm. Some interesting points. And I actually... Did you watch it, Creature, and then Shape of Water? Or
I did, and I found in this particular case it kind of enhanced it, because I instantly went in, especially when they let on where they find this one, what year it is, and all that. I'm like, this is a sequel.
I actually did it the other way around.
Did you?
My wife and I watched Shape of Water first just because we had kind of like an early evening free. I mean, this is a little over 2-hour film, so it was something that she wanted to watch, and we wanted to start it earlier, so we were both awake and conscious through the whole film.
Yeah.
And so we watched it first because I figured, I can watch Creature. That's only a little over an hour. I can watch that at any point.
Right.
And then promptly didn't give myself time to do that. We actually had to delay recording a day or two so I could actually squeeze it in. I had a lot of Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Sure,
I've seen it several times in the past, so I think I definitely could have come into this and had the exact same amount of stuff to say about it.
Right.
You
have more history with that one.
Yes, yeah. All right, also, Stephen actually sent that message through Facebook. Justin McLean also says on Facebook, Creature was easily better than the original Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman by leaps and bounds. The only Universal pick that outdoes it is Frankenstein. Haven't seen the original Invisible Man, so I don't know where it stacks up.
Give it a shot.
Just wish the Creature sequels were worth a flip. I told him, I was like, you owe it to yourself to watch The Invisible Man.
Yeah,
I think he'd really like it.
You can't have all those under your belt and not have that one.
I think he would find Invisible Man probably holds up maybe on par with Creature for him.
I would hope so, because for me, still, that one's kind of my lead.
Mm-hmm. I know that's a favorite of the ones we've watched so far. That is the favorite of yours.
That's the one that really captivated me through the entire film.
Also, Facebook Nate Zig just says that The Shape of Water is a tearjerker and beautifully made. So he's definitely in your camp. He likes that film.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Cree, she says, I've seen both and think they are both pretty darn good. She does say, I'm glad my sister saw Shape of Water before me and warned me about a couple things. My brain was not prepared for that to be in the opening of the film. And I think she's referring to Eliza's bathtub moments, perhaps.
I appreciate the way that they even did those. Nothing gratuitous about it. Just a person being a person.
No, I agree. But again, to me, it does just put another edge on that peg that I'm struggling to find the hole for, you know?
Right, but for me, I took it as this is a woman living a very solitary life who still has all the needs of any other person. And the fact that she's doing what she's doing in water, when she meets her water boyfriend, it just kind of all clicks. I kind of like the symbiotic nature of all of that.
Over on the Discord server,
Wow, we have
Steph.
gotten a lot.
Yeah. Steph chimes in. She says, I still don't know how I feel about The Shape of Water. It's definitely worth a watch. Just not sure if I'd ever watch it again, though. I did reply to her, like, spoilers, I kind of know how you feel.
And over here in this camp, we'll watch it once a month.
Yeah. And our good friend Matt also chimed in on Discord. He says, I've only seen 2 of Del Toro's movies, Pacific Rim and The Shape of Water, and I didn't care for either.
Oh, my.
I don't think he's a bad filmmaker, but I definitely don't get what others see. So, yeah, very interesting. And interesting, I think, very different films. If you think of Pacific Rim and Shape of Water, that is like opposite ends of the Del Toro spectrum.
Quite. So
I wonder what he would think of Pan's Labyrinth.
And believe it or not, Pan's Labyrinth is one of those that I still need to get to.
I've seen it once. It was something my son was actually interested in seeing for some reason. I don't recall why, but we brought that home and watched it about a year ago or so.
Yeah, in my case, it's just I'm gonna have to read it.
Yeah,
because it's Spanish language.
Yes, so that is true.
That's the believe it or not, that's just the only barrier. Otherwise, I'm dying to see the film. I have to be in the mood to read the subtitles.
Yeah, and like I said, I did see it the one time. I don't remember really what I thought about it. So I maybe take that as you will. Take that as a critique in itself if you want. I'm not sure.
Film that are more art than story, those are stumbling points for you from time to time.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could discuss Brazil another day.
I've seen it once.
Yeah.
But in my defense, that was probably 30 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we should add that to the list for someday.
For some day in the future.
Yes.
But yeah, that's all I had. But thank you very much, everybody that sent their comments in. That greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that was fun.
We thought this was going to be the last film in our spooky season, but we decided to go one more episode because Tom brought up a really great suggestion, and I'm surprised I didn't think of it first.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a look at, and we've completely forgotten about, Phantom of the Opera.
Possibly the first Universal monster.
Yeah. So we are going to go back to the original silent film from, and this is going to take a little research because it says it's 1925, but it was released in 29.
Okay.
So there's something going on there. I don't know exactly what. The one that stars Lon Chaney, though, and then sort of the film that cemented him as in everybody's kind of horror mind. Mm-hmm. Some may argue about Hunchback of Notre Dame, perhaps, but we will pair that with a 2004 version Phantom of the Opera starring Gerard Butler, which I've never seen. I've seen several films that are take-ons or takeoffs of Phantom of the Opera.
Sure.
You know, I've seen the kind of cheesy 70s, Phantom of the Mall or Phantom of the Paradise, or even Kiss and Phantom of the Park, that sort of thing.
I seem to recall, like, 90s sometime, there was an NBC miniseries for the entire story of Phantom of the Opera.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
No, I distinctly recall it, and it was long.
Yeah. I guess the only film version of Phantom of the Opera I've seen is I think you said it was 43, starring Claude Rains. It was a British production.
Yes, something like that.
I have seen that film, but yeah, I haven't seen any modern film interpretations of the story. So this 2004 should be interesting.
Yes, no, I'm looking for. Just remind yourself that one is not like an hour long.
Yeah, understood.
It's a bit longer. It is the full form musical. if you were to sit through it end to end and have it exist in a real world.
I am just really scared, and Tom and I talked about this a little bit before we started recording. One of my high school drama productions was Phantom of the Opera. So I spent most of the early 90s with the Andrew Lloyd Webber soundtrack stuck in my damn head, and I'm really scared that that is going to resurface now.
Oh, it's guaranteed. Which is just making this so much better.
Yeah, that should be a fun episode. If you have any thoughts on either of those films or anything that we had to say in this episode, please type or record a message and send it to timeshifterspodcast@gmail.com, or follow the link in the show notes to all the social media sites and leave your comments there. That will do it for this episode. We will be back in a couple weeks to continue our spooky season well into December. I love it.
Yes.
There's no better way to spend the end of the year, I think. So until then, again, thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.
See ya.